All right, we already know it's been great for the stock market, right? But in the days we've now been getting used to the idea of a Republican Senate, my next guest has been saying, you know what, this is the perfect charm for homes, for home sales, for the mortgage industry, housing industry, for all of those guys. Because former Fannie Mae executive Tim Rood now says that the Republican House and Senate will be poised to loosen up regulations that he says are keeping housing down. What specifically do you see happening, Tim? What would they change?
Hey, Neil. Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, lenders have been begging for some relief for a long time. What we're seeing is that with the Republican-controlled Congress, there's going to be a lot of energy around kind of loosening some of these incredibly tight regulations around the lending activities.
Such as?
Well, lending activities right now, if you think about that, over the last 2 years, lenders have had to adopt about 300 new rules. That has everything to do with what you can originate it, how you manufacture it, how you service it. It's unprecedented, to say the least.
You know, I'm as, averse to regulations as anyone, but some have a merit after the meltdown. That is the idea that you put no money down or no documentation for loans, because that did lead to reckless behavior on the part of those who thought with a $50,000 income they could buy $1 million home, and on the part of those who lent the money to those very people. So when I hear reports of 3% or no money down loans being sort of recooked up, I worry. Do you think a Republican Congress then in the Senate now could go too far back to the old days?
Well, I mean, to clarify, back in 2009, there really was legislation that got into, legislating away any of those risky products that you couldn't. So, I mean, this was kind of a little bit over the top. I mean, 3% down, 5% down. You have to remember that I always try to distinguish between what's bad credit policy and what's bad economic policy. A 3% down payment, a 5% down payment is not the catalyst to a default. Because the poor guy lost his job, had a sickness, an illness, or lost a job and couldn't replace it.
No, my only point in mentioning that, but believe me, I defer to you. You're the expert. But it does make you more apt to walk away from something, especially if you don't have the proverbial skin in the game.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt that the lack of skin in the game is something that if somebody was going to strategically default, which just means he looks around and says, you know, this isn't the neighborhood I want to live in anymore. I don't think this is a good investment for me. Let's take off. That happens so rarely in a normal market that
But your point is they overdid it with the regulations to address that and all this other stuff that had nothing to do with that. And you hope that a Republican Senate might be less inclined to just pile on here, might take at least some of these regulations away.
Exactly right.
Would the president sign on to that? Because methinks he might not.
Yeah, he's talking to be a lot more sensitive to the fact that credit is too tight. And the people that it's affecting are his constituent base. So if you see that there's a lot of lower income minority households that right now got really beat up over the housing crisis, found themselves out of the housing market, lost most of their net worth. As they're trying to get back in and get out of these expensive rentals, you're going to need to do whatever we can to remove some of the economic barriers for borrowers that otherwise can still make their payments.
Tim, well put. Thank you very, very much. Good having you. Tim Rood, now Collingwood Group. He's the chairman there, former top Fannie Mae official.